Welcome back to e-learning for Adobe Dreamweaver CS6. In the previous lesson, we have learned how to use images for graphical effects. In this lesson or in this tutorial, we're gonna learn how to create a new CSS rules. In most of the previous lessons, we edited the rules that were predefined in the CSS layout. In the following exercises, we will learn how to create our custom rules for HTML elements, classes, and IDs. There are two types of CSS rules that we're going to learn. The one is the descendant selectors and the second one is the custom classes. Let's focus first on creating descendant selectors. Or rather, creating descendant selectors. The predefined style sheet declares a rule for multiple elements that will affect all H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6, and P tags no matter where they appear on the page. But if you want to target a style at a specific tag within a specific element, it requires a descendant selector. Dreamweaver makes it easy to create such rules. In this tutorial, we will create a descendant selector that will target specific CSS styling to the H1 element in the main content area. Let's insert the cursor in the main heading in the main content area. Note the names and order of the tag selector at the bottom of the document window. So, the heading is an H1 element sitting in an article.content, sitting in div.container, sitting in the body element. As described earlier in this chapter, when creating new rules, take care about where they appear in the style sheet. Rules at the top of the sheet can pass formatting to rules appearing later, or cancel settings because of higher specificity. Inserting a rule in the wrong place could cause the browsers to ignore it altogether. Note: when the cursor is inserted into the page content, Dreamweaver will always create the compound selector for you, even if the compound option is not displayed when the dialog box first appears. Let us select the content rule in the CSS styles panel. Because you selected the content rule first, Dreamweaver will insert the new rule immediately following it in the style sheet. So, just click it once, click the content, and click the new CSS rule. As you can see in the selector name, the name for your selector is .container.content h1. If you remember the CSS syntax you learned in the past tutorial, we know that this new rule will affect H1 elements, but only when they appear within an element formatted with a class of .content and when both appear within an element formatted with a class of .container. The great thing about this rule is that it will leave all other H1 elements unaffected. Since there will only be one article.content element in this page design, there's no need for such specificity in the rule. Whenever possible, rules should be simplified to reduce the total amount of code that needs to be downloaded. In this case, it's only the notation .container that isn't needed, but unnecessary code adds up across the entire site overall. So, in the new CSS rule dialog box, click again the less specific and then click OK. As you can see that the word .container is removed from the selector name field and the .content h1 remains. So in the type category, let us change the font size to 200%. So to change it to 100%. And in the box category, let us deselect same for all in the margin field and enter. Let's just enter 10 pixels in the top margin field only. And let us just add 5 pixels on the bottom margin field rather. The main heading doesn't change in size but appears 10 pixels lower on the page. Note that the new rule was inserted directly after the content rule in the CSS styles panel. Click apply and then click OK. Just don't forget to save. And the other one that I was talking about latter was creating custom classes. CSS class attributes allow you to apply custom formatting to a specific element or to a portion of a specific element. Let's create a class that will allow you to apply the logo color to text in the file. In the CSS style panel, click the new CSS rule icon. So, choose class from the selector type menu if necessary. Then, just type green in the selector type menu. Then click OK. The CSS rule definition for that green dialog box appear. So, just type 098 in the color field of the type category and then click OK. The dot green rule is added to the style sheet. In most instances, a class attribute has a higher specificity than the default styling applied to any given element and will override it. So it shouldn't matter where in the style sheet it appears. Dreamweaver makes it easy to apply classes. Let's apply the class to an entire element. Insert the cursor anywhere the H1 element in article than content. In the property inspector, look for the green and then choose green. All the text in the H1 element is now formatted in the color green. At the bottom of the document window, as you can see that the H1 becomes H1.green in the tag selector. Let's see it in the code view. Let us examine in the code view. The rule is applied as an attribute to the tag as h1 class equals green. When the cursor is inserted in an existing element, Dreamweaver assumes you want to apply the class to the entire element. Now, let's remove the CSS class from the element. So, going back to the design view, and then select all of the H1 element, and in the class menu, just choose none. The class attribute is removed from the code. The tag selector now displays a plain H1 tag. Although you applied none, the class menu shows content instead of none, indicating the class attribute assigned to the parent element containing the H1. Next, let's apply a class to a range of text. Select the word main heading. Just in the H1 element and then choose green from the class menu and the property inspector. The class is applied to the selected text using the notation span class equals green. The span tag has no default formatting of its own and it's intended to create custom inline styling like this. So, what to do is to remove again and then insert the cursor anywhere in the formatted text. Choose none from the class menu. The text returns to the original formatting. When the cursor is inserted in a class formatted element, Dreamweaver assumes you want to remove the formatting from the entire range of text. So, just save the file. So the last thing that we need to learn in creating new CSS rule is to create a custom IDs. The CSS ID attribute is given the highest specific weight in CSS styling because it is used to identify unique content on a web page and therefore should trump all other styling. The app tip containing the butterfly logo is a good example of a unique element. The div app tip 1 is positioned at a carefully specified location on the page. and you can be pretty certain you'll have only one such div on each page. Let's modify the existing rule for this element to reflect its use in this element. Select the active font rule in the CSS style panel. So, right click and click edit tag selector. Change the name logo. The rule name changes. But it no longer formats div active font. The layout reflects the default behavior of an unformatted div element without height and width and other key attributes applied, and it expands to the full width of div container and pushes the header element down below the height of the butterfly image. To restore the layout to its intended appearance, you have to assign the new logo rule to the div active font. So let's insert the cursor to the div active font or click the butterfly to select it. Yes. In the property inspector, open the ID pop-up menu. So, in the property. So, the div active and click logo. Note that the menu has two apparent options, active font and logo. Choose logo from the ID pop-up menu. Reformatted, div logo resumes its former size and positioning. Classes can be used as many times as you want, but an ID is supposed to be used only once per page. Although you could conceivably type the same ID multiple times manually yourself, Dreamweaver won't offer any help in your attempt at rule breaking. You can demonstrate this functionality with a simple test. Let's examine the CSS style panel and note the available class in ID selector. There are 4 classes and 1 ID selector defined in the panel. Let's insert the cursor in the div logo. Click the div logo tag selector. The property inspector reflects the specifications applied to div logo. Open the ID field pop-up menu and examine the available IDs. So this is the div logo, and the only ID available is logo. So in the class field menu, choose screen. So as you can see, the tag selector displays div logo.green. As you can see, it's possible to assign both an ID and a class attribute to an element at the same time, which may come in handy in certain situations. Insert the cursor in a horizontal menu. Click the nav tag selector. And then click the nav tag selector. In the property inspector, open the ID menu and examine the ID availables. So the only available ID option is none because logo is already assigned. Open the class field menu. Examine the available class attributes. So in the class field menu, not all the class attributes are available. The Dreamweaver interface allows you to apply class attributes to multiple elements, but it prevents you from applying ID attributes more than once. Close the class menu without making selection, and then save the file. We should know now some of the differences between classes and IDs, as well as how to create, edit, and assign them to elements on our page. Next, we will learn how to combine these attributes using CSS to create interactivity behaviors for hyperlinks.